Hey class, I wanted to come to you for just a moment to maybe try to address a few questions regarding your final paper from some of the emails and even the comments. I know some of you are stressing this as we near the end. Your syllabus gives you some outline, of course, for the final paper, this research paper, and it does count as 30% of your grade. Those metrics are already in place, and so I will grade as well as we can and with as much grace. But this is kind of where the practical of this comes into play from everything you have read. Of course, the title is your Church Discipleship Analysis Final Paper, 5 to 7 pages. I'm kind of a stickler on length because just like a sermon, if I preach a sermon that's too lengthy, it means that I haven't cut out enough of it. And it's difficult, it is painful to cut out good material, but good material removed often makes everything else better. And I fail at that as a pastor who preaches weekly, but more times than I would care to admit. But the reality is when you're writing a paper, the length is important. Now, I know this paper can be 10 to 20 pages easily, particularly with what you have been given as a guidance. But again, the core of this is to analyze the models of discipleship in your local church. And I have been asked questions about what local church maybe you've moved recently. I will let that be upon you, but you need to be able to speak intellectually with an understanding of what goes on. If you do not need to write, I don't know how we do this, but rather you need to have some understanding of what you do and speak with clarity what that is. And if it is an area, as we look deeper into this, is if it's an area you just don't do as a church, or you don't cover it, or you have a different way, that's okay. It doesn't have to be in agreement with everything we have read or even talked about. You can disagree with something we have said, but state why respectively, and why you believe what you're doing is correct. Or again, if you don't think you're handling the right way and this material has awakened you to look at it differently, that's fine. But what you're doing, you're engaging with what your local church does in the elements of discipleship. And so you're looking at the models of discipleship. And so these are the three areas that you have been asked to, that you need to have and cover. Describe your observations of each of the forms of discipleship. And it's given that. Now, here's something to catch. Nor do I expect you to cover every observation of what the books or lectures have talked about. Not at all. In your church. Okay? So if you do Sunday school and midweek Bible study, and those are your two primary elements, then you need to describe your observation of those, the good and the weakness. We sometimes say the good, the bad, and even the ugly. In other words, you need to evaluate that and describe what is happening in your observation. Secondly, identify, this is really more that good, bad, and ugly. Identify the strengths and weaknesses of those that are in your local church, types of discipleship, and it says at different age levels and specific groups. So you would describe, we'll use Sunday school and then a midweek Bible study, kind of what I grew up in, a traditional setting. And so you would speak of that in general. We do a Sunday school, we do a Wednesday night. Here's how that takes place. Here are the age groups that occur. Here are the materials that we use. We use on Sunday morning for Sunday school, we use the church's Sunday school literature, but this class uses subject matters that they deem is important to their life development. Our Wednesday night Bible study for the adult is taught by a teacher that determines the material, or pastor teaches a series of classes on that. Our youth, our children do this. And so again, you need to describe that by age, but then in step 2, what are the strengths and the weaknesses of each of these? And again, you don't have to be perfect or extremely lengthy, but you do need to give, I will emphasize personal opinion here. If you cannot see its strengths and its weaknesses, you have not looked at it well. I don't mean that to be offensive. I'm saying if you can't look at your discipleship at different levels of your ministry and see strengths and weaknesses, you need to go back to reevaluate it through the lens of what we have studied. And then third, develop a plan to improve and implement methods and practices of discipleship in your church by building on its strengths and using supportive scripture and your research, okay? And so this plan, you may be a pastor and you may have the authority to do it. You may be a lay leader and you are, say, over youth ministry or a specific element of it. And so this isn't that you have authority. You may have the complete authority to do it. But it's not about you having positional authority. It's about your ability to analyze what is the strengths and the weaknesses and an understanding of all of them, and then begin to implement. If a part of it is you think, your senior adults on Sunday morning that is working perfect for them, you may simply summarize that you continue that. I would dare say there's not some areas you could improve, but there may not be mass change. There may be an area that you would say needs mass change, or at least a dramatic shifting from where it is based off what you've read. And so develop a plan to improve and implement the methods and practice of discipleship in your local church. And so your length of your paper is going to come here probably. It's going to take you a little bit to describe it. It's going to take you a little more. I'm careful to try to give you how many pages, but in a page and a half, you should be able to describe what your church is doing. In a couple more pages, you probably can review and analyze the strengths and weaknesses, leaving you 3 to 4 pages to describe your plan. Now, again, I'm not going to grade it specifically to that, but I'm trying to give you an idea of the weight of those sections, what they should be. Now, as far as semantics of what you must do, you must use a minimum of 5 sources citing in addition to biblical text. So using the Bible is great. It is a source, but in addition to the Bible, you must use 5 sources, and no more than 2 web sources must be used. Your textbooks can be one of those, or 2 of those. It's probably a little confusing. The statement says no more than 2 web sources, and students may use textbooks as sources, but no more than 3 online sources. So the difference in the online and in the web sources are very minimal. And so I would just probably advise you to just keep to 2 online sources, unless it is, you can sometimes pull research. So sometimes dissertations or academic letters have been written that you may be able to access, say, a PDF of that online. That is where I would give you the 3, up to 3. Again, quoting blogs or brief articles at maximum of 2. So together, those would be 3. And the point is, you're going to use your books for 2 of those. Particularly, I'm certain Blevins and Maddox will be used intensely in some of those, but you need to find some other sources, and this may be the harder part. So what I would encourage you to do is, one trick you can do is you can go in looking up some other discipleship classes that are taught and see the materials that are there. So children's youth ministry, Christian education, discipleship, all of those phrases are out there, and find some books or articles that are out there that you could access, even sections of that would focus in on what you're analyzing. Then there is some specifics that I won't take time about the formatting of that. There is ways to access that, the size of 12.5. And I have been asked in other writings about cover pages. The style there gives you some direction, but please make sure your name is on it. I personally have asked you, as you have done, most have done it consistently, name your file with your name. Also put the headers and footers in place that puts your name on it. And that way, if we ever have to print, that they stay together. We try to do those online now to save paper, obviously, but sometimes on lengthier papers like this, it's easier to print, read through them old school style, and come back with a grade. So if you have any questions about your final paper, let me know. Again, those deadlines are the last day of the course uploaded into the system. And if you have questions about how to do that, let us know. This isn't just for my sake, but it keeps a record of it being uploaded with your name to you, and it's not just lost in my email. It's best to do that. But once the class closes, it closes, and it'll be more difficult to do anything afterwards. And so I'll go ahead and forewarn you, I have tried to extend lots of graces when I have been asked. I understand I am a pastor and a father of 4 kids, and so life can be hectic, even some of the timing of my lectures. And so I respect grace, but I will tell you that I have deadlines I have to submit things to as well. And so I can't turn in anyone else's grades until the last person turns in their paper and until it's graded, because it is done all at once. The class is finalized when I've submitted all grades, so no one else's final will post. So no one else's final grade will post until I'm able to finalize for the final grade. So if you have questions, reach out to me. I'll be glad to help you. It's been a good journey. Enjoyed it so far. God bless you.